This summer, we celebrate the 150th year since David City became the county seat of Butler County. It was 1873. However, in that year, David City was nothing more than a broad expanse of level prairie. A single solitary building, the courthouse, marked the site of the future town. Most of today's residents of Butler County don't know that David City wasn't the first county seat of the county. It was Savannah, along the Platte River, directly north of present-day David City. Never heard of Savannah? That's perhaps because today it is a forgotten town, on the south side of the Platte with only a state marker to tell of its history. Butler County had a very interesting and event-filled history before 1873. The Butler County Historical Society would like to give you a glimpse of the residents, the earliest inhabitants being the Pawnee Native American tribe and then the pioneers, both who called this beautiful land their home. We have constructed 4 individual exhibits which we invite you to view: a collection of Pawnee artifacts found near present-day Linwood, a vast collection of pioneer women's possessions, a display of early maps of the county, and an exhibit of the early railroad's influence on the growth and progress of the county's pioneer towns. Browse the museum and enjoy the collection. The first people with whom we have any record as having been inhabitants of this land was the Pawnee tribe. There were only 3 permanent villages within the limits of the county: along Skull Creek near present-day Linwood, near the site of Savannah on the Platte River, and northwest of Linwood in the bluffs on the west side of Skull Creek. In the late 1700s and into the 1800s, the Pawnee tribe was very strong and had a huge population. Traces of the residences, numerous pieces of pottery, shells, flint, and arrowheads have been found through the years in all of these sites. The Butler County Historical Museum's collection is quite extensive, so don't miss viewing the Native American artifacts in the front room on the south side of the museum. The first white men who came into Butler County were those of the trappers and exploring parties. Then the Mormons traveled through the territory to the west. Later, the overland trail to California and then to Pikes Peak caused an immense amount of travel across the northern part of Butler County and established 2 great trails: the Old Government Road of the military forces and the Pikes Peak Trail following the Platte River. Butler County's boundaries were defined by the territorial legislature in 1856. It was formally organized 12 years later, in 1868, when the population reached the required 200, a year after Nebraska became the 37th state on March 1st, 1867. The first attempt to settle in this county was made in 1857 by the Waverly Town Company of Plattsmouth, which built a log cabin along the west bank of Skull Creek, today the site of Linwood, one of the first 3 towns of the county. Skull Creek was named as such because of the number of human skulls that were discovered nearby. This was the site of an ancient village of the Pawnee tribe, who had been attacked several times by the Sioux, and it was determined that the skulls were those of the fallen Pawnee. Skull Creek had the first permanent county residents, including James Blair and family, and S.B. Garfield and family, who came to Nebraska in 1858. One of the settlers of 1859, Moses Shin, made and operated Shin's Ferry, which ran from 1859 to 1872, at the midpoint of the northern county border. This became the major means of crossing the Platte River in this part of Nebraska. Near Shin's Ferry was the first Butler County seat, Savannah, on the northern border of the county. During the years 1869 to 1872, it was described as a thriving village, containing 25 to 30 houses, stores, and other buildings. This is where the business of the county was transacted. This was a big problem for the largest of the 3 towns in the county, Ulysses, on the southern border of the county. It took a 2-day round trip for the residents of Ulysses to go to Savannah, where the courthouse was located, to take care of legal business. So Ulysses, as well as Savannah, wanted to be the county seat. However, In 1873, after a 4-year struggle and 4 contested votes, both Ulysses and Savannah lost their bids to become the county seat. By a slim majority of the Butler County residents, a brand new town was formed in the center of the county for their county seat. And that town was called David's, with an S, City. The S was soon dropped for convenience. David City, a plot of prairie, now the new county seat, was located on the property of Mrs. Phoebe D. Miles of Cordon, Iowa. Mrs. Miles hired a surveyor to lay out the town site, and she named the town David City after her maiden name, which was David's. In the fall of 1873, a modest courthouse was built on the site for $1,470. So that's how David City came into existence and how it became the county seat, all in 1873, which we celebrate this summer, 150 years later. With David City's birth, there were now 4 towns in the limits of the county: Linwood, established in 1868, Savannah in 1859, Ulysses in 1867, and David City in 1873. With the coming of the railroads into the county in 1878, more settlers came and several towns were settled in the county, including Abbey, Bellwood, Brainerd, Bruno, Dwight, Garrison, Loma, Octavia, Rising City, and Surprise. The settlers' successes and joys were also met with several hardships. In 1871, and again in 1873, the county was visited by the worst snowstorms in the history of Nebraska. The first lasted only 24 hours, but the second, in 1873, lasted 3 days and 3 nights with hurricane-type wind. Perhaps unknown to many of us, Butler County was once a land of large ranches. In 1872, when a thunderstorm approached the county, thousands of Texas longhorns stampeded and destroyed the settlers' cornfields and gardens in their path. In the fall of 1872, a destructive prairie fire came into the county and literally burned over the entire county. The grasshopper plague hit in 1874. Like a cloud black in the skies, countless millions of the insects descended upon the earth and destroyed every bit of the crops. We hope that you have enjoyed a brief sketch of the early history of our county. Andrea's history, written in the 1880s, explained the pioneers' love of this land. The surrounding country is beautiful in the extreme. Far as the eye can reach, a rolling, billowy landscape is seen, checkered with the squares of emerald wheat and waving corn, of finely cultivated farms, while good substantial homesteads indicate the homes of a refined, intelligent, and well-to-do people. We echo these sentiments.